Hey, Sean, after a huge project that I did over the past few weeks, I'm left with a new question that I want to start asking potential clients before I agree to do work for them. But first, I guess it's not a YouTube video anymore without a sequence fetishizing coffee. After my last few shoots, and my shoots are getting bigger. I'm working with bigger and bigger companies. My most recent shoot was with a worldwide company with a really predominant agency here in St. Louis, and it was incredible the amount of thought that went into the pre-production of this project. But I'm left with this question that I wish I had thought to ask ahead of time, but it's a hard question for a client to answer and to, I think, admit in most cases. But the question is, what is your priority? What is your ultimate number one priority with this project? And the way that I'm thinking about it, it can be one of three, maybe four things that can be your number one priority. And you can't pick more than one. One of these things has to be the most important, and they go like this. Budget. Is budget the absolute most important thing where no matter what happens, we've got to hit the budget? We don't have an extra $50. We don't have an extra $100,000. We've got to hit the budget exactly. And so if that means, this would be better to shoot over 3 days, but that means we can't have as much crew as we want, or we can't have the same equipment, or we can't rent the cameras maybe that you want this shot on. But we have to decide what to put into this on this budget, and that is non-negotiable. The second option would be time. Is the time of production the most important thing? Where say you especially working with these large companies when there's executives who have ridiculous schedules, trying to fit into their schedule when they set aside 25 minutes to film an interview, or we have somebody for an hour, or this event is only happening on this day and we can't get into the facility until the night before. That limits what you can do. And if we know that there's no way around that, we can't spend any extra time, we don't get the person for an extra, whatever, we can't shoot in 2 locations with this person, we know that no matter what, the utmost priority is making sure that we don't go over time and we don't take up more time than we have from the facility, from the individual, from whatever. The third option, and as I think more and more about these projects, I'm realizing for so many people it isn't one of the first two options. The third option is the actual quality of the piece or of the footage. And that's what I ran into with these past couple projects, where things were so tight with the scheduling, where we were only on location for so long, and we only had a certain amount of time to set up and then a certain amount of time to film. You get in a situation where you just can't build the setup that you want. And so you have to make compromises. And I find this especially when filming on location, when somebody wants to put us in a conference room, for example. And this happens everywhere. But you end up with a big window, and if it's cloudy, great. If it's sunny or partly cloudy and you've got changing conditions, if you don't have the budget or the time to switch locations or rent a different place or flag out all the windows so that you can control the light a little more thoughtfully, or rent extra light to really balance out your daylight backdrop, there's a number of things where, a lot of clients would say, we're not as concerned. Let's shoot with the window behind. It's going to be a little blown out, or we may see reflections in this or that if we look closely. We just don't have more time to hone this in and to polish it anymore. And I'm shocked at how often that isn't the priority, but I get it. Everyone wants a Super Bowl commercial, but those things take time, and they take a lot of hands, and they take a lot of thought to get right, and you want to do multiple takes and get things right. And especially for me with found footage, when I'm working with schools a lot of the time, we only have so much time with students, and in that time, we don't want to bother people. We're trying to capture things candidly, and we want to make sure that we're not, intruding on the students' experience as students. And so if there's a bunch of kids walking out of a classroom and it's almost a great clip, but one of the kids walks by and looks at the camera, it ruins the shot. But you can't, the school does not want us to say, hey, everybody back in the classroom, let's do it again, walk out, and this time don't look at the camera. That's not their priority. And so the quality of that piece isn't their priority. And if it means that we don't have that shot, or we have to cut it off awkwardly early, or start it in the middle, or cut away from it and come back, or do something to hide that, that's not the best quality of that clip. But that fits it into the right time, and that fits it into the respect of the space and the people, and it keeps it under budget. And so I'm struggling because I want to ask a client before we film, like, hey, at the end of the day, what is the priority? If it's the kind of thing where, hey, if we take an extra hour and we maybe add a light rental onto this so that we can accommodate everything and be prepared for anything, but we know we'll have a high quality product, is that worth it to you? But for some people, again, that budget is the priority, and they don't want to go over that. And if that means compromising on the quality of the footage or maybe the consistency of the look, that's that. And like we shot in a warehouse one time, and there were lights, and I had asked them, can I bring? Do we have the money for me to bring a PA? And they said no. And I said, well, I'm going to set up the cameras, I'm going to set up the lights, and then I'm going to sit down in front of them and conduct the interview. And if you understand that there's no one watching the cameras, we're trusting that no batteries die, that it stays in focus and the exposure's good, it comes with that risk that one of those things the cameras could die. I'll do my best, but the cameras could die or short out or something, and no one's monitoring that. Are you okay with that financially? And they said, yes, that's all. We want to keep this budget low, and we're willing to take that risk. And sure enough, while this warehouse was generally controlled and we had a light, there was this big skylight which was illuminating the background, and the clouds were coming up and down during it. And so when we cut up the interview, there was a clip, and then we used another clip from later, and it was noticeably darker in one and brighter in the other because of this light. And the client came back to me and they're like, hey, that looks weird. Is there a way you can fix that? And I was saying, no, not really. I mean, short of going in and doing some really, really specific color grading, this is the risk. This is what you wanted. We needed to hit that budget, and we did, and we didn't have the room to protect ourselves from that. And so there's things like that where I don't expect the client to admit, like, hey, the quality of this piece isn't our priority. We just want to hit that budget, or we only have this much time. Get what you can get, and if we miss the shot, you can't go back and redo it, so don't worry about it. And like weddings are a good example of this. Of like, there's a relentless timeline that is non-negotiable, and you need to get to that ceremony. And if you don't get all the creative shots that you want, and you don't get to sprinkle the leaves and do the twirl exactly how you want, then you end up with less quality, but you know that time is non-negotiable. And so when corporate clients do the same thing, I understand that, but I want to click into the mindset ahead of time to say, is this what they're going to expect? And for me and my creativity and satisfaction in life, is this what I'm proud of producing? Is this able to go in my portfolio? What is this? And I want to know, should I ask? Should I say, hey, let's do that again. Let's get that clip again. This looked weird. Somebody looked at the camera. The lighting was inconsistent. It just got real bright, and we need to, compensate for that. Or do they want to say, you know what, don't bother these people. We've only got so much time. I want to know ahead of time, but it's a tough question to ask of like, hey, is the quality of this super important, or should we not worry about that if we don't get the shot? And I feel like that's going to be a tough thing for a client to admit ahead of time. And the fourth thing, and this is something that comes really with bidding, and it works into the price as well, but post-production turnaround time is sometimes a priority. We're filming something, we need it turned around in a week, or we need it turned around in a day. And when that's the case, we know that we have to capture differently. We don't have time to color correct everything, so we have to shoot it differently. We're not going to shoot it in log because we're not going to go through and color correct everything, so we have to shoot it in camera a certain way, and maybe light it a little differently because of that. And if that's the case, then it lets us approach the project a little more thoughtfully and say, I know that this needs to be done tomorrow, and if we don't have time to get the shot, or we know that the sun's never going to line up how we need it to, let's do something else. Let's give up on this so that we can get to the final product that you want. But that's my current reflection, and this is an awful video if you were expecting something different and well thought out. But I ask clients during my proposal process, what is your priority in choosing a provider? And like, if you choose, are you choosing based on the lowest price? Are you choosing based on the quickest turnaround time? Are you choosing based on the quality of work? What are you choosing on? Because for me, if somebody says to me, you know, price is really the most important thing, and we're going to go with whoever has the best bid, and we don't care about the other things, I always say in that situation, good luck, you don't want to consider me. I'm not going to compete on price with someone. But this is a different part of that, where even if we agree on the price, even if they do have a big budget and they can afford everything we're asking, there's going to be times in there where we maybe want to do a little bit more, take a second. If we go over time, is that worth it to get the shot, or is it not worth it to save the money or to save the time? And I just don't know exactly how to breach this with a client and have them admit what their priority is if it isn't the quality of the project. Because I think everyone in their head thinks, yeah, the quality of the project is the most important thing, but it's not. In my experience, it is very, very, very seldom the priority of the project. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. If you watched this far, A, thanks. And B, if you work in this industry, and what do you do to manage your expectations? Because like some of these clients, like I get a big client, I'm like, holy cow, I get to work with, you know, so-and-so, and I get to work with the St. Louis Association of so-and-so. And then I get there and it's still the same, like, oh, shoestring budget, and we don't have time, we don't have room for this. And I get disappointed because I'm like, hey, I finally get to work with so-and-so, but the project looks like every other rushed, you know, law firm self-promotional internal communication video that, you know, they're trying to cram into before people leave for the day. And it's frustrating to me, and I want to make sure that they understand that what they're getting is aligned with the expectations that they have in the beginning. And if I need to help them curb those expectations and say, look, if you're only giving this, you can't expect that. But it's a pessimistic way to be, and I don't want to be like the tough love, I'll tell it to you straight. Like, I want to do this, and I want to find ways to make it work. But if it won't, or if it can't, I want you to understand that, so that I don't deliver something you're like, hey, I was really expecting it to be different, or, you know, that window's way too bright in the background. It's like, well, the sun came out and you said you didn't want to take the time to do something about it. So that's where I'm at. This is a rambly video. Sorry about that, but maybe you took something from it. Maybe you just watched me make coffee for like 10 seconds. It's really bad coffee, by the way. Don't rush it. Don't film it. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.